update is. The update that we know that so many of you, and well, so many of us as well, has been wanting for such a long time. It's the Caves and Cliffs update.
October 3rd, 2020. In terms of modern Minecraft, I would say that this is one of the most important days in the game's history. On this day, Minecraft Live 2020 would be live streamed to the world, with the star of the show, of course, being the announcement of the new update. Sorry, Minecraft Dungeons, which in this case would be Minecraft 1.17 Caves and Cliffs. But why is this date, the one where they just revealed the update, more important than the date where the update, actually released? Well, it's because this wasn't one update. While everything revealed was originally planned for Minecraft version 1.17 and to all be released in the summer of 2021, Mojang had unintentionally revealed more than just an update to everyone, but rather an era for this game. If you at all followed Minecraft updates following this stream, you know that many features announced in the stream wouldn't make their way to a full release of the game until long after they were announced. Even something as integral to Caves and Cliffs as, the new Cave and Mountain generation wasn't released until over a year after the stream. The Deep Dark, essentially a year after 1.17 released, and Archaeology, a year after that. And to this day, bundles have yet to be fully implemented into the game. Are they really that complicated? Caves and Cliffs has been an era for Minecraft that, because of bundles not being fully added yet, has technically lasted over 3 years, over 20% of the time that this game has even existed. How did this happen? How did Mojang go from releasing arguably the most beloved updates of all time to now not being able to escape constant criticism due to what felt like controversy after controversy with the community, and now being at a point where it feels like more than ever, people don't feel like the updates are even worth it anymore? Seriously, 1.16 wasn't that long ago. Oh my god. Well, to understand that, we need to go back even further than the stream to understand why it had even played out the way that it had. This is the Caves and Cliffs era of Minecraft. 2017, Mojang was on a roll, releasing the most beloved updates of all time. Wait, I got this script wrong. Hold on. Here we go. 2017, Mojang was releasing some of the most hated updates of all time. Not to say that people thought these updates were bad. Okay, but there were good things like shulker boxes, observers, woodland mansions, the recipe book, popped chorus fruit. Yeah, some of you just learned a new item. Okay, here's the actual point. 1.9 released a year and a half after 1.8, and the following 3 updates would release within that same length of time. Even though Mojang was making new content, things were getting kind of dry. Playing the newest version of the game felt almost indistinguishable from the last. This isn't even 1.12 footage, this is 1.9 footage. Smaller updates are fine, to be clear. We don't need, and at least in my opinion, probably shouldn't have a Nether update or Caves and Cliffs sized update every single year, but it was getting a little hard for people to get excited for new content when it felt like there was barely any to begin with, 1.10. So if you want to bring back older players and bring in new players as well, you can revamp something. Take a fairly stale part of the game and then redo it to make the game feel fresh once again. Kind of similar to the idea with 1.9. It's MINECON Earth 2017 and Mojang decides to announce the update Aquatic as Minecraft 1.14. Then they changed their mind. This update was pretty good, adding new structures, mobs, potions, a new weapon, a new armor piece that gives you water breathing, and even new music from C418. Fast forward and it's time to announce the next update again. Mojang decided to continue the whole revamping thing with updating villages and villagers. Also raids and pandas. More structures, more blocks, more mobs, and very exploitable trades. It's nice that Mojang tries to appeal to as many playstyles as possible, including people who hate mining. Yes, I see you Superflat and Skyblock players, but also people who really like exploits this took 4 years to fix. Alright, one more jump to MINECON Earth, MINECON Live 2019, where Mojang decides that everything before was just a warm-up. It's time to focus on the actual big update, their most ambitious update yet, the one that would be long regarded as one of the best updates to ever come to this game.
Pollinating a flower, gathering some pollen.
Did you know this update didn't even have a logo? Of course, the actual big update and big announcement was the Nether update, which was announced at the end of the show, while bees were at the start because they were, interestingly enough, added in snapshots a full month before. I like that, starting off the show with the new stuff and then ending off with even bigger things. We were shown the Target Block, the Soul Sand Valley, the Crimson Forest, the Warped Forest, Hoglins, Piglins, And that was it. I'm not saying that because I don't think these features were enough, I'm saying that because if you look at what was actually added in the full update, the announcement didn't include netherite, bastions, piglin brutes, basalt deltas, respawn anchors, striders, lodestones, nether gold ore, blackstone, soul speed, crying obsidian, chains, ruin portals. I think the devs were on something to finish this update in time. Actually, piglin brutes were added in a minor update later. Whoops, guess the update was unfinished, F tier. This was the thing that I didn't mention with the previous updates. While a lot was shown off in each show, it wasn't everything. The first snapshot to include 1.13 features included a mob not mentioned in the show, turtles, which itself added a new helmet, and then we later got conduits, the heart of the sea, drowns, and nautilus shells. 1.14 continued it with the new trading system, basically every profession block aside from 2 of them, but also new flowers. 1.15, since it came out in snapshots before MINECON Live, you could say basically the entire update aside from the honey block. The reason why this is important is because it felt like these updates over-delivered, and things kind of coming out of nowhere made things feel even more new. At least that's the best way that I can describe it. It reminds me of when I was still new to the game, still learning things that I would consider very basic knowledge now, but also when I didn't pay attention to the updates. So when an update would come out, I wouldn't know. It gave a feeling of there being so much more to discover because I didn't know what there was to discover. Like in 2014, I was just rowing across an ocean and got jump scared by something I didn't even know was in the game. There was already a good amount of content revealed, and we know that there would be more things added, but when you don't know what they are and they're just suddenly added, it makes the update feel more exciting. It's a little harder to get excited about something in the update that you've already learned about like half a year ago and have probably been able to playtest for months, compared to something that just appeared like a month ago. If you followed these snapshots, your hype for these updates probably just kept going up, especially with 1.16. First snapshot, netherite. Huh? Take an update with an already clear theme, show off some of its features, and then keep building on top of that. All of these factors combined along with a Minecraft resurgence the previous year and people having more time to play the game, for some reason, I don't know, I forgot to add it to the script, but with all of that, we basically get exactly why 1.16 was so beloved and had so much hype. And then Mojang threw that all out the window. Wait, all of that was just the first part? How long is this? Who wrote the— oh, right, me, okay. Minecraft Live 2020. This live stream was going to have the eyes of basically the entire community as people wanted to know how Mojang was going to follow up the absolutely massive Nether update for Minecraft 1.17. Mojang was on a roll of releasing the most beloved updates of all time, so they obviously knew this had to be big. They knew that at the very least this update had to be as big as the one before, and couldn't just be a fairly small update. The reason is that they've already established this theme of revamping existing parts of the game, and this entire time people have been asking for one part of the game to be revamped. The mine in Minecraft with a cave update. If you're doing all these updates, you can't just stop right before you get to the one that's probably been requested the most, especially with how much hype that would cause. And with the winner of the previous year's MINECON Live 2019 biome vote being mountains, Mojang took this as a chance to try to one-up the Nether update as much as they could in the stream with this update. The show started off with them doing what they did last year, that being them talking about new stuff at both the start and end of the show. Guess what? Cave update! They then proceeded to show off and or mention lush caves with emphasis on the drape leaf plant, new cave generation, dripstone cave, skulk, wireless redstone with skulk sensors, the deep dark candles, the warden goats, new mountain generation, powdered snow, amethyst geodes, telescopes later renamed to spyglass, copper, large ore veins, lightning rods bundles, archaeology with brushes and clay pots, axolotls, and of course the winner of the mob vote, the glow squid. Hey, remember last year when they just talked about a new block, 3 new biomes, and 2 new mobs? Yeah, remember that. Hindsight is 20/24, I guess, and I know that my perception and opinion on this livestream is very much swayed because I know how this update actually turned out, but I can't help but have one question. Why was the update presented like this? What was wrong with the previous way of announcing stuff and not literally everything? Ignoring the fact that snapshots now have to play catch up to include things already announced, which I will get back to later, but since everything being added was already announced, things were going to slowly feel less and less new before the update even comes out. Like what, 7 months later? Surprise snapshot features are almost as important as updates themselves. I mean, why do updates exist? Money, but also to help keep the game fresh. Feel free to disagree, but it's the reason why these updates were even revamping things to begin with. New features and snapshots keep the update feeling fresh and new before release. I hate using the Nether update as a comparison to this update because it feels like literally everyone does, but Just remember what the update literally right before did. We weren't even shown netherite. You don't need to announce literally everything to start a conversation about the update, especially when you use the words cave and update in the same sentence. The two parts of the show dedicated to talking about 1.17 features were longer than the amount of time that they spent talking about 1.16 last year. Each. Without a doubt, I think they could have shown off half of the features, and as much hype would have been accomplished. Again, I know that there's bias in my questioning because of hindsight in this situation, and I know that the whole hype thing maybe isn't that big of a deal, but I don't understand why this was done when not only was it adding all of these blocks, mobs, and items, but it was also just casually redoing the entire cave and mountain generation. Okay, enough about all that. In the end, the whole hype thing was accomplished. Of course, some people didn't like the update. I mean, that's gonna happen with literally every update, but we're finally getting a cave update. Before the end of the month, Bedrock already had a beta with goats and powdered snow, 1.16.200.52. I guess it's easier to understand than 20W45A, which was the first 1.17 snapshot. We got geodes, tinted glass, that's new, the spyglass, bundles, copper, and the introduction of everyone's favorite block, waxed lightly weathered cut copper stairs. I'm not going to go through every snapshot, but each week things will be added one by one. I think if we actually want to compare 1.17 to 1.16, we should acknowledge that the first 1.16 snapshot wasn't released until February of 2020 because of 1.15, so I think a more fair comparison between the two of these should start with us comparing the first 1.16 snapshot 20W06A to 21W06A. Yeah, you could argue that 21W05B might be a better comparison because the dates are closer, but shut up. 20W06A had everything shown off at MINECON Live except for piglins and target blocks, but the snapshot also included netherite. Now funny enough, 21W06A was the first snapshot to include the new cave generation, barely making it, but also up to this point we had received the glow squid, lush cave blocks, axolotls, skulk sensors, dripstone and pointed dripstone, along with powdered snow, plus the things that I mentioned earlier in the first snapshot, and some other things. Because neither of these snapshots included most of the update already, it didn't entirely feel like Mojang was falling behind with this update at this point, especially if the Nether update was able to be finished in time. However, I do have to say one thing. In a previous snapshot, 21W05A, Mojang made a pretty big change. I don't see many people talk about it that much, and I think it's single-handedly the reason why people don't see caves and cliffs in the same light as the Nether update. In this snapshot, waxed lightly weathered cut copper stairs were renamed to waxed exposed cut copper stairs, giving them a less funny name, and I still haven't forgiven them. As snapshots went on, it became clearer and clearer how much attention needed to be dedicated to just the caves. By 21W14A, Java Edition still hadn't received the new mountain generation. Yeah, at this point Bedrock had. The skulk sensor was the only deep dark feature added so far, and there was nothing added from archaeology. At this point, it had become clear to Mojang that these features needed more time. And so on the 14th of April 2021, an announcement was posted onto the official Minecraft YouTube channel, along with snapshot 21W15A, and thus the direction and future of this update had been completely changed. Like mentioned, there was a video uploaded to the Minecraft YouTube channel titled A Caves and Cliffs Announcement. In this video, it was said that due to the technical complexity of the update, they had decided to split it into two parts, one releasing in the summer, 1.17, and one releasing in the holidays, 1.18. They say themselves that this had been their most ambitious update yet, and because of that, 1.17 will just focus on blocks, mobs, and items, while 1.18 will deal with the actual world generation and when new biomes will actually be generated. A lot of people appreciated the transparency with this video when it came to how and why the update was being split. But one thing to remember is that at this point, everything revealed at Minecraft Live was everything we expected to come out of Caves and Cliffs. The Deep Dark was still a Caves and Cliffs feature for all we had known, which is why this part is more interesting.
And mobs will include the axolotl and the goat and the glow squid.
If 1.18 is only about world generation and everything not directly related to world generation is in 1.17, why was the warden not included in that list of mobs? Remember that as far as we knew at the time, it was still a Caves and Cliffs feature, and also remember that the skulk sensor was already added in snapshots and betas, so why not the rest of the blocks, especially if they don't need to be generated now. In the video, they did actually directly mention archaeology being delayed to after Caves and Cliffs, just thought I should mention that. What's funny to me is that I, for some reason, distinctly remember where I was and exactly what I was doing when this video released. But I also remember some people just hoping that the Deep Dark would be in 1.18 because for a lot of people, that was the main thing that they were actually excited for. I do think that the split was a good call for quality though. Much like how it would be a good call to hit that subscribe. Remember that there was also a snapshot released the same day as this. This really just reverted all the world changes made up to that point, added raw mineral blocks, and included this panorama. Interestingly enough though, they started putting the cave changes behind data packs, so they were still working on cave generation at this time. You know, that really sounds familiar. They also removed some stuff from the creative inventory. This included bundles because of UX problems, the skulk sensors, and for some reason, candles? But then re-added in the first pre-release, and then the update was released. And that was about it. I'm not saying that the update wasn't good. I mean, I really liked it when it released. Look at this part from the release trailer. That's pretty cool, I guess. There just wasn't much hype when this released, which makes sense. We were still waiting for the actual big part of the update. And speaking of which, less than 2 weeks after 1.17.1 released, the first 1.18 experimental snapshot was released. 6 more would release after that, and then we finally get to the real snapshots in September with 21W37A. Snapshots would continue to go on to change caves and mountains, and making more and more sure that older worlds wouldn't break upon being updated. But there was one noticeable thing about these snapshots, specifically on what was missing, that being the Deep Dark. We were getting closer and closer to a holiday release. We even had a new menu panorama, but still nothing. Our questions would be answered on the 16th of October 2021 when Minecraft Live 2021 was live streamed and parts of the show were dedicated to 1.18 and 1.19. I'll talk more about the 1.19 part later, but basically all you need to know when it comes to 1.18 is updates basically finished, Deep Dark next update. Look at these cool seeds. To continue with the focus on 1.18, I'll just skip over the rest of the show and show the next snapshot where we got new music. And again, that was pretty much it. Everything else was really just optimization after that, which wasn't enough for a lot of people. Anyways, 1.18 released on November 30th, 2021 with new biomes and world generation. I really liked this update, except for the stupid Strider achievement, like Striders weren't even added in this update. But now, Caves and Cliffs was technically over, at least in terms of what Mojang calls the updates. But we know that wasn't true, so let's rewind back to Minecraft Live. After it was said that the Deep Dark would be part of 1.19 now, what felt like an eternity later, 50 minutes, we finally got to know more about this next new update. Next new update. Keep in mind that all we knew up to this point was that the Deep Dark was this and this tiny room. So really, what was so big about this that it needed to be delayed? Oh, okay. That's a little different. What we know as Skulk and the Deep Dark today was really just shown off in this stream. Last year we focused on the Sensor and the Warden, but this year they finally decided to explain what this was, the Catalyst, and now we know the whole XP mechanic, Shriekers, Darkness, and oh my god, they killed the Skulkjaw. Also, what's with this part?
And there's even this like ancient structure in the middle of every single city, and it's got something interesting about it that you're going to have to explore in game.
What, do you mean how hard it is to break the reinforced deep site? You have something planned. After that, the rest of the update was shown, but they weren't Caves and Cliffs features, so I won't focus on them. What I will focus on is this question. Did you guys not learn anything from last year? Once again, hindsight, I know, and I get that this is a significantly smaller update, but that makes it a whole lot worse if you just so happen to show and talk about something without guarantee that it'll come in the next update, right when you're in the middle of talking about things guaranteed to come in the next update. Also considering that in the past some features were just described without showing any images or footage at all. In all honesty, I don't really care, but I still don't get the switch of this. Why have less surprises and snapshots? Why put more pressure on yourself to deliver things you already promised? I seriously don't think it's really that big of a deal. I mean, I'm just happy that we're still getting free updates, but I'm still confused and just hoping I'm missing something. Interestingly enough, we actually got a new snapshot for 1.19 before 1.18.2 was even finished. On February 7th, 2022, 11 days before 1.18.2 released, Minecraft Deep Dark Experimental Snapshot 1 was released, which contained ancient cities, Skulk, the Deep Dark, the Warden, and surprise, Swift Sneak. Cool snapshot. I'm still waiting for Minecraft Deep Dark Experimental Snapshot 2 to release. I'm starting to really think Mojang doesn't care about us die-hard Minecraft Deep Dark Experimental Snapshot 1 fans. Real snapshots started to release in March with new stuff not shown, but like 1.17 and 1.18, snapshots released over time and were oddly missing features, none of which were related to the Deep Dark though, so in terms of what I'm focusing on, everything was fine. When it actually comes to ancient cities in the Deep Dark, it's pretty cool. Upon being added, it became the new largest structure in the game, with how spread out and big that thing in the middle was. What is that? Oh, it's a portal! Never mind. The loot is pretty cool, including a significantly high amount of enchanted golden apples. The Deep Dark is also a biome where no mobs spawn. I think they all died. This means that if you actually clear out all of the Shriekers, you're chilling. Also, I like the amount of diamonds just sitting here, like, you can just take it. I really like this place, and as long as you know what you're doing, it can be pretty easy. In terms of how people liked it, it was pretty mixed due to many factors, and then a minor update released that I'm sure was just a bug fix update, and everyone loved it, and we all lived happily ever after. But now, Caves and Cliffs is finally over. Mojang no longer has a backlog of things that they've already shown gameplay of like a year and a half ago. Wait, I forgot about archaeology. After 1.19 was revealed, there were two jokes that I would very commonly see where people just change the update's name to be something else. There was the mild update, but also just straight up Caves and Cliffs Part 3, because half of the update was technically just part of Caves and Cliffs. So yeah, the same thing happened with 1.20. It's Minecraft Live time once again, and this time, Mojang actually realized the faults of how they presented the previous years and decided to only show off things that they've already finished, making this feel almost like the Nether update reveal. Of course, with the only minor difference of there being significantly less stuff. Because of this, however, we were already able to playtest things shown off literally just days later. But none of these were archaeology, so I'm just gonna jump forward. We actually need to jump all the way to the 10th of February 2023, when the Minecraft Twitter account made the announcement that archaeology is coming to 1.20, with the collective reaction, finally. This new version of archaeology was fairly different from what we saw. First of all, the things that you actually use the brush on for items has changed to only specific blocks that stay at a full size when you're brushing them. Let's be honest, half the reason why a good chunk of you were excited when you saw this was because you thought that you could make dirt slabs by using the brush. Also, the excavation site is different. Rather than an area already being excavated, I assume, it's now a buried underground city. I think Mojang has a thing for that. This place is unique in the fact that I think it's the only structure that has the guarantee that you will most likely not get all the loot from the structure on account of the fact that you keep breaking the suspicious gravel. But that's basically archaeology. It was the last major thing promised in Caves and Cliffs and was finally finished. But it's not the last thing. The entire time that we were getting 1.20 features, it was behind a data pack that you had to enable until it was finished. And even at the time that I'm making this video, when 1.21 is being developed, there has been another data pack just sitting there, the bundle, an item that has technically been in Java Edition ever since 1.17 and hasn't really even been touched. The reason for this is because of difficulty getting it to work with different controls. Using a mouse, it's pretty easy, but getting it to work with touch controls, a little tougher. They want to release this on Java Edition and Bedrock Edition at the same time. But during this entire time that this item has existed, a lot of people have spoken on how they don't think that this solves the inventory problem. The only time when this comes in use is when you have a bunch of different items in your inventory that only take up a few items in each slot. An example given at the reveal of the item was having one slot with only 2 flowers, and another one only having 1 seed. That's a total of 3 items, which can be combined into this one slot, but it only goes up to 64 items, or a stack. So unstackable items would just take up the whole thing, making them useless for the bundle, despite being a major factor in the inventory problem that they talked about. Also, some items only stack up to 16, which was even shown in the video, so they take up more space in the bundle for less of that actual item. Whether or not you think this item is useful at all is up to you, especially because they used rabbit hide in the recipe. Okay, I get giving items more uses, but rabbit hide? Really? Can't wait for the day that this is finally going to be finished and fully implemented, and everyone makes the same Caves and Cliffs Part 5 joke over and over again. Earlier in this video, I talked about the fact that Caves and Cliffs itself stemmed from another era of Minecraft that we were in, that being a revamp era. We saw dedicated updates to oceans, villagers, the Nether, and then caves and mountains. Of course, this will make people wonder what else could be revamped. Could it be an end update, a combat update? I just noticed both of those just describe 1.9. People have been asking for these updates for a long time, but they didn't get it during this era. Is the word era even accurate in this case? Oh yeah, more frequently than ever, there seems to be people who are just tired of these new updates. Of course, for a variety of reasons, but one reason is that they had yet to get these updates that they wanted because we still weren't done with Caves and Cliffs. Everyone tuning into Minecraft Live for 1.19 and 2022 for 1.20 that were hoping for an end update didn't get it because big features from Caves and Cliffs still weren't finished, which is why those updates weren't an end update or a combat update or whatever else. But now, that's behind us. Those major features and mechanics are finished, and we can now look forward to a new era of Minecraft, one where things promised in 2020 isn't the focus, and we're not focusing on the underground anymore. Trawl chambers are underground. Oh my god, Mojang.